If the Red Sox keep playing like this, they're going to need reinforcements at the deadline, and this feels like a perfect match. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin. Right now, the Boston Red Sox are playing like a team that wants to be buyers at this year's deadline, which could put the front office in a really interesting position. Now, we know that this front office is after two particular positions to reinforce if they are to be buyers at this year's deadline, and there's a trade out there right now that could be an absolute perfect fit. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about what that trade would look like, who the Red Sox would acquire, why they're a perfect fit. We're going to talk about what it would take to get those guys and whether or not the Red Sox would actually do something like this. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so right now we know two things about the Boston Red Sox. We know that they aren't really sure whether or not they want to buy or sell at this year's deadline. It's going to be up to the play on the field over the next month or so and how healthy they end up looking come this year's deadline. And the other thing is that if they do end up buying, they're looking for two positions in particular, a starting pitcher and a shortstop. And there are a couple of different ways the Red Sox could go about this. In fact, there are a lot of different ways the Red Sox could go about this if they do end up buying. But right now, there's a team on the south side of Chicago that could have both of those options for you in one perfect package. And that would be the Red Sox trading to acquire Chicago White Sox starter Garrett Crochet and Chicago White Sox shortstop Paul DeJong. Now, in terms of why this makes a whole lot of sense, looking at Garrett Crochet, he has become one of the best lefty pitchers in the game this season. In his first full year starting games at the big league level, he has a .316 ERA and 15 starts on the year. He leads all major league starters in strikeouts per nine at 12.6. He has an AL leading 0.895 whip, meaning he's allowing less than one base runner per every inning he pitches, a .272 FIP, meaning that he is performing even better than his ERA leads on, and he has 130 ERA plus, about 30% more productive than the league average pitcher. He's also well above average in basically every single measurable category, including towards the top of the league in expected ERA, expected opponent batting average, whiff percentage, and extension. The dude is flat out killing it this year. That would be adding a whole lot of firepower to the Red Sox rotation going into the second half and a stud lefty to balance it out. But what makes a lot of sense for the Red Sox is that Crochet is not a short-term solution. Breslow is constantly talking about, or recently has been constantly talking about, the balance between pushing to win now and building for the future. Garrett Crochet would help you with both. Not only is he doing really well this season and really emerging as one of the game's best lefties, he is also under control until the 2027 season. That would give the Red Sox 2.5 years of control left on his deal, all while being cost controlled, and we all know exactly how much cost control means to the ownership of this team right now. There is one hesitation here I have with Garrett Crochet, and that is that this is his first year in Major League Baseball, meaning there's probably going to be a bit of an innings limit on Crochet's season. For the Red Sox, that could cause a bit of a problem considering 95% of their rotation right now is pitchers in a similar situation. Tanner Houck, Cutter Croft, Cooper Criswell are all sort of in that boat as well. Brian Bayo's kind of in that boat. He's still got to figure out his adjustments. That's a whole nother story. Nick Pivetta is really the only starter on this team that doesn't have that type of problem with the Red Sox going into the second half of the year. This might give the Red Sox a bit of hesitation as to whether or not Garrett Crochet is truly the right target for them. However, if they are confident in their ability to help him get past that innings limit, really blow past it and be productive for the rest of the season, or if they have a plan to move to a six-man rotation or something along those lines to help limit his innings further down the stretch and still have him be an impact player while also not overloading the players already in your rotation, Garrett Crochet could be the absolute perfect fit for the Boston Red Sox because not only is he an absolutely fantastic starter, he's a controllable lefty, something the Red Sox have absolutely none of. He makes a ton of sense to to see in a Red Sox uniform, especially with where the Red Sox are planning to be both in 2025 and in 2026. But he's not the only person involved in this trade, so let's talk about why Paul DeJong would be a perfect fit as well. However, before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button as well. Not only does it help these videos out a ton, but it's also the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content we are putting out. Thank you all very much for doing so. Let's break down the other part of this trade. Like I mentioned, the other part of this deal would be for the Red Sox to get shortstop Paul DeJong, who's kind of on a career tear right now. He's currently slashing .240 with a .289 on base percentage and a .480 slug, good for a .114 OPS plus, about 14% above league average production. With 14 home runs on the year, he is on pace for a career high 34 home runs, and he's added 11 doubles to that total. He isn't and never will be or never has been a guy who hits for average or on base. He's not someone who gets cheated up at the plate, but adding that kind of thump to this lineup would be a whole lot of fun. But maybe more importantly than that, he is also one of the game's most solid defensive shortstops. Right now, it's nothing super impressive, a dead average 0 outs above average metric, but over the past 2 years, his outs above average have been well towards the top of Major League Baseball, with 5 in 2022 and 9 in 2023. Adding him into the mix with Hamilton would give you a bit of a killer tandem out there. Hamilton's a big contact guy with a ton of speed, but he does lack some defensive prowess. Paul DeJong is a power threat with solid defense, but he lacks that contact and speed approach. You kind of create a well-rounded shortstop out of the two of them combined. He is also on a one-year deal with the White Sox, making him a perfect candidate for the Red Sox to find a short-term solution for their defensive problems at shortstop without having to sacrifice any development in the next couple of years with guys like, say, Marcelo Meyer, or even like a Chase Mydroth or anyone like that. You could still call those guys up in 2025 and not really worry about Paul DeJong blocking the way. You only have to worry about Trevor Story. Now, the other part of this is he's only making $1.75 million this year. Again, we look at the Red Sox being very, let's say, budget friendly this year. This fits right into that philosophy. So you take a look at the two of these guys combined, and what you're looking at is if the Red Sox are looking for a starting pitcher, well, Garrett Crochet has been one of the best in Major League Baseball. And if you're looking for a short-term solution at shortstop, Paul DeJong has a history of being an above-average defensive shortstop, and this season, he's going to bring you a whole lot of power as well. He's not going to be anything insane. He's not going to be an MVP candidate, but he could totally transform this Red Sox defense, as well as adding in a bit of right-handed power at the deadline, which could be a massive piece in getting the Red Sox offense to this next level. Again, you talk about whether or not this trade makes sense. It feels like a perfect fit for the Red Sox, but the big question now becomes, what is it going to cost this team, and are the Red Sox willing to give up what it takes? In terms of what it might cost the Boston Red Sox fans, you might have to brace yourself for this one because it's not going to be cheap to acquire a guy like Garrett Crochet, who's obviously the main piece of this deal. Starting pitching is a valuable commodity on its own in Major League Baseball. Quality starting pitching, one of the best lefties in Major League Baseball, yeah, that's going to be a premium. On top of that, you're going to be competing with a whole lot of other teams also looking for starting pitching at the deadline, probably in better positions than you are. And on top of that, he's under control for the next 2.5 years. He's going to cost a pretty penny. Paul DeJong obviously going to cost a whole lot less than Garrett Crochet, but he's still going to cost a noticeable amount here because of what he brings defensively and the power and his price of his deal. So you're looking at a pretty big package here for the Red Sox. Now, there's a couple of ways they could go about this. The first one is if they really don't want to tap into some of their most valuable prospects, would be quantity over quality, right? Offer them as many prospects as humanly possible, or players with controllable contracts as humanly possible, to try and get this deal done. Something that looks a little bit like this. Now, again, I say this every time we make a trade video. I'm not a trade guru. I have no idea what it would actually take to get this deal done. I'm just sort of giving you an estimate as to what the value would look like. But right here, what you're looking at is a whole lot of prospects and controllable players, and this could be something the Chicago White Sox end up being interested in. And the reason I I say that is not because I think Garrett Crochet is not worth more, but because of the fact that the Chicago White Sox are basically at the very early stages of a full-blown rebuild, getting in a huge quantity of prospects, guys who could possibly work out and be impact players later down the road, combined with players who could make an impact right now and have a few more years under control, could be exactly what they're looking for, as it just simply gives them options going forward as to what this team could look like. So this may be something both the Red Sox and White Sox could be interested in. However, because it is the trade deadline and because you're probably going to have to outbid some other teams, my guess is this isn't what's going to get it done. In fact, more likely than not, what it's going to have to take is it's going to have to take quality over quantity. It's going to have to take some big names to get Garrett Crochet from the Chicago White Sox. And in my opinion, it's probably going to look something like this: Miguel Bleis, Wilyer Abreu, and then someone else in there that has a pretty decent amount of value here that would give the White Sox what they're looking for in return for Crochet and DeJong. Again, it's not going to be easy to get these guys over here. Basically, any way you slice it, you're going to have to give up someone of pretty big importance to get Crochet to the Boston Red Sox. And the question now becomes, is this something the Red Sox are willing to do? And in my opinion, that's the big question in all of this, right? In the trade deadline as a whole, are the Red Sox willing to give up the assets needed to make a big splash? And that's a really tricky question, because it kind of feels like like we talked about with the White Sox, the Red Sox in their own right don't feel as though they're fully done with their own rebuild. And that makes it a bit more difficult to be able to say, yeah, I'm fully comfortable giving up big time assets like a Wilyer Abreu or like a Miguel Bleis in order to improve the current state of this team and really sort of improve it for the next couple of years. Is that a risk they are willing to take? I don't know if it is with Craig Breslow. I think he's still evaluating over this offseason. I think he's still evaluating this season. I don't know if this is something that he's going to be willing to give up in order to improve this team. To be honest with you, I don't see something like this happening. I think if the Red Sox do end up adding at this year's deadline, it will be on a smaller scale. Paul DeJong still feels like a reasonable target, but in terms of a starting pitcher, I think if they are going to add something like that, it's going to be a more 4 or 5 type guy, a guy who's not going to cost a ton of prospect capital, someone they can get in here without having to dip in to the top 10 in their prospect list, because again, they're still looking to see what they look like in 25 and beyond. But at the same time too, at some point here, Breslow's going to have to make a decision. He's going to have to make a decision as to what prospects and major league players with controllable years left he's going to commit to for the next couple of years, right? You can't fit all of them on a major league roster. And if the opportunity like this is here, this might be something they just simply have to pull the trigger on. To me, this doesn't feel realistic, but it also is something I can't get out of the back of my head. Again, you have to make a decision here at some point, and if these guys are going to be on the table, this could be the perfect time to make that decision. But that's just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this? Is this a perfect match for the Boston Red Sox? And if you were Craig Breslow, what would you be willing to give up in order to get it? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button as well. Like I said, it not only helps these videos out a ton, but it's the best way you can let me know that you are enjoying the content on this channel. Don't forget, you can always get these episodes in podcast form on the go if you want to listen instead of watch. Links will be in my description, or you can head over to your favorite podcasting app and simply look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.